Good afternoon from Raleigh, North Carolina. Or at least that's when I'm doing this. So, um, at present, at the time of this recording, um, we still are having controversy around tariffs, and interestingly enough, my own dissertation um was covered. I covered tariffs pretty heavily. The person that I was covering, David James McCord, was a fierce opponent of tariffs. Um, we wanted to bring up something. It's kind of interesting. Um, number of you are probably already familiar with this. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But let's go to the Constitution. And if we go into the first article of the Constitution, you may be familiar with um, talk concerning the slave trade. Now, of course, at the time they didn't they didn't use the terms slave or slave trade, but it's pretty clear that's what they meant. Um, and there was a couple of things that came to mind, right? One of them was um, that the earliest we can get rid of the slave trade is 1808, and that's exactly what they did, right? Um, but another thing that they brought up was if we're going to keep this slave trade, then we are going to tax people um, $10 for each slave that comes in. All right. Now, given my hue and given my humanity, um, I do take some umbrage to calling human beings goods. But with that being said, that's not how many folks from yesteryear viewed it, right? They viewed slaves as commodities. Now, tell me, what do you call a commodity? What I mean, so what do you call a tax on a commodity that's coming in? They call that a tariff, right? That's what a tariff is, right? A tariff is a tax on, let's call them moving goods. Technically speaking, you could very well have tariffs on items that are leaving, the country as well. Technically speaking, that can happen. But typically it's on, imported goods. All right. Well, a tariff is indeed a tax on moving goods. In this case, imported goods. And in this case, slaves. So indeed, if you will, the Constitution obviously is a moot point now, right? But in the Constitution, you indeed have what I would call now. There might be some people who may have an argument, a compelling argument that goes counter to what I'm saying. But from my beady eyes, um, this looks like a tariff. And it's the only tariff that I am aware of that's in the Constitution. But from what I can best tell from where I'm sitting, you indeed did have um, a tariff on, if you will, on the importing of slaves. Now, it also looks like to some respect that this is probably a prohibitive or maybe even restrictive tariff or punitive tariff. on slaves. Hard to say. Um, but it is indeed, from where I'm sitting, a tariff. So I think it's an interesting thing to look at. Um, and to see how things, appear and disappear over time or reinvent themselves. At any rate, that's all I have to say. Feel free to comment or even message me, I suppose. Um, but as a historian, well, at least I'm trained as a historian, um, I myself just couldn't help but to notice that. Okay, take care and goodbye.